Hey everybody, I'm Trey Wilborn and welcome to this week's Not So Super Short Bible Story. I want you to imagine something with me for just a minute. What if your hands had power? I mean, if everything you touched could be awesome. Let's give it a try. I have here a banana, a simple banana. But what if I could, turn it into a sundae? I love sundaes. How awesome is that? Well, since my hands have power, I wonder if there's something else that I could make awesome. I mean, here we are. I have some balloons. But who likes to blow up balloons? I mean, honestly, like you gotta spend a lot of time and all your breath in your lungs, and that's just too much work. But what if I could, all right, I love balloons. How awesome is it that I can just use one simple touch and blow up all those balloons? But you know what? Jesus was able to do some powerful things with just one touch as well. In today's Bible story, I want to tell you all about it. In Mark chapter 5, we read that Jesus was standing on the shore and a large crowd of people were gathering around him. Jairus was one of the leaders in the synagogue and fell at Jesus' feet and begged him, "Please, my daughter is about to die. Please come touch her so that she will be healed and live." So Jesus went with Jairus, and many other people followed and started to crowd around Jesus as he walked. Now in the crowd was a woman who was very ill. She had been bleeding for 12 whole years. She saw the doctors time after time, spent all of her money, but sadly, nobody could help her. She was only getting worse and worse. But the woman had an idea. She said, "If I can just touch Jesus' clothes, I'll be healed." So that's what she did. She pushed her way through the crowd as best as she could until she was finally able to touch Jesus' clothes. Immediately, she started to feel better and she knew that she was healed. In fact, her bleeding stopped. Right then, Jesus felt the power come out of him and asked, "Who touched my clothes?" The disciples were like, "Jesus, there's so many people around. It would be impossible to know who touched your clothes." But Jesus looked around for the woman who touched him. Knowing that she was healed, the woman came and fell before Jesus, telling him what had happened. Then Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in peace, you're healed." Wow, that's a crazy amount of power because the woman had enough faith in Jesus to touch his clothes, and she was healed because of that. But what about Jairus' daughter? Remember, she was sick and dying at home? Men from Jairus' home came to let him know that his daughter had already died. But there is no need to bother Jesus anymore. But Jesus said, "Don't be afraid, just believe." So they went to Jairus' home, and the people were very sad. Jesus asked them, "Why are you crying? The child is not dead, she is only sleeping." When Jesus went into the room where the child was, he held her hand and said, "Little girl, get up." Immediately, she got up and started walking around. I mean, how incredible is that? With just a touch, 2 people were healed in that day. By healing the woman and raising the little girl from the dead, Jesus showed us his power as the Messiah. Jesus died on the cross, rose again to save people from sin and death. When we trust in Jesus, God forgives us of our sins and he cleanses us to be more like his son, Jesus. All right, I think I have time to change one more thing, and I know you're really gonna like this. We have a stuffed animal here, and I wonder what if we could, all right, a real dog. This dog is awesome. I tell you what, I've really enjoyed teaching this week's lesson because I realized that the power of God, he can do anything, and in just one touch, there are miracles to be had. So I hope that we can remember that next time we're going through a struggle. We can realize that just one touch from God can make all of the difference. So I just want to say, Joey and I have had a blast being here with you guys. Thanks for tuning in to this week's Not So Super Short Bible Story. We'll see you again next week.
Jesus stood on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, and a large crowd gathered around him. Jairus, one of the leaders in the synagogue, fell at Jesus' feet and begged for his help. "My daughter is about to die. Please come touch her so she will be healed and live," he said. Jesus went with Jairus, and many people followed, crowding around him. In the crowd was a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years. She had seen many doctors and had spent all her money trying to get better, but no one could help her. She was getting worse. The woman said to herself, "If I touch even Jesus' clothes, I will be healed." She came up behind Jesus in the crowd and touched his clothes. Immediately, her bleeding stopped and she knew she was healed. At that moment, Jesus felt that power had gone out of him. He turned around. "Who touched my clothes?" he asked. Jesus' disciples pointed out that many people were crowded around him, but Jesus kept looking around. The woman, knowing she was healed, came forward and fell before Jesus. She told him what had happened. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. You are healed." While Jesus was speaking, some men came from Jairus' house and told Jairus, "Your daughter is dead. Do not bother Jesus anymore." Jesus heard what the men said, and he told Jairus, "Do not be afraid. Just believe." Jesus and 3 of his disciples went to Jairus' house. People there were crying and wailing loudly. "Why are you crying?" Jesus asked. "The child is not dead. She is sleeping." The people laughed because they did not believe Jesus, and he told them all to leave. Jesus took Jairus and his wife into the room where the child was. He took the girl by the hand and said, "Little girl, get up." Immediately, the girl got up and began walking around. Jairus and his wife were amazed. Jesus told them to give the girl some food and to not tell anyone what had happened. By healing the woman and raising the little girl from the dead, Jesus showed his power as the Messiah. Jesus died on the cross and rose again to save people from sin and death. When we trust in Jesus, God forgives our sins and changes us to be more like his Son.